Today I'm here with Darcy from Tesla Owners Singapore to talk about some of the common myths and perceptions that we face as Tesla owners or prospective buyers in this country. Welcome back to Investing with Daren. Click the subscribe button to stay updated with more interviews like this. Darcy, can you tell us about yourself, please?
I reserved my Tesla in 2016. Supposedly one of the first in Singapore, but I think Chris, who is the country manager, beat me to it. So he beat me to it by a few hours. So that's my Tesla journey. I've been waiting 5 long years. I finally got my vehicle back in August, the first week of August. I'm loving every week of it. There are small kinks here and there with the vehicle, but all in all, it's been an amazing journey. And today, so we're here in one of my office spaces. We just moved in, so that's why it's still in a mess. What we do is pretty much workwear. We are a workwear solution for companies. So just imagine if you are McDonald's and let's say you have staffs and operations in various different countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. How do you ensure that the workwear that they wear on them is uniform across all the different countries? So what we do is we help them put together the solution for them.
I see.
How to get this moving across the different countries.
I'll put a link down to Darcy's business in the description below. Maybe you need workwear for your own company too. Darcy, tell us one fun fact about yourself.
I always believe that if you do not live life on the edge, you have to ask yourself whether you are indeed living. So I feel most alive when somehow my life is on the line. So back in 2016 or 17, when I take my skydiving license.
Wow.
So that was that was in Australia, and I did about 15 jumps. Yeah, so now I'm certified to skydive, but I've not dived since, waiting for an opportunity to get my wingsuit license, in fact. So I'll probably go to the States and get that done when I get time off my company.
Congrats. Some people also believe that being a Tesla owner is kind of like living life in the cutting edge of technology, automation, and the future. So let's get into our top Tesla myths and perceptions and get Darcy's perspective. The most common one that we hear now, and we did a poll recently with some owners in Tesla Singapore, the biggest myth or perception that people feel is that full self-driving or FSD is a scam. Like, is it a real thing? Would the government approve it? Is this science fiction? What's your take, Darcy?
Autonomous driving will come. It's just a matter of time. Whether full self-driving is a scam, I guess in years to come we'll know. Right? Even for myself, in a few years we'll know whether or not Tesla and the team managed to get it done. Whether the government will approve this, the tech is new. Autonomous driving has to happen because that's the most efficient way that transport can move in the future. So just imagine you have a family. You've got mom, dad, 2 kids, grandparents. Right now, maybe dad has to drive mom to work, drop off the kids at the schools, and then grandparents, if they have lunch or dinner, someone's going to have to tapao for them.
Yes.
Just imagine a future where your car or any form of transport can get the kids to work, get mom and dad to work, and then go home and during lunchtime or dinner time, bring your grandparents out for dinner. And the vehicle doesn't have to park. So most of the time, the vehicle is fully utilized. You maximize the utility of a vehicle. And if you're aiming for a car-like society, then what's better than maximizing its utility throughout the entire lifetime?
Fully agree. Today, our cars sit in a car park 90% of the time. Increasing utilization is a big way towards sustainability as well. Yes, we can buy less cars, but other options also to use our existing cars a lot more. The promise of full self-driving is huge and the potential is there. I think it's a matter of when and not if that we'll get there. But then right now, full self-driving beta is only available in the US and just launched in Canada. So when does it become worth it to get FSD in Singapore?
The immediate answer to this question is we will never know. right? We will never know when it's worth it to get it in Singapore. And even in the next 3 years, I think Autopilot is good enough. The reason for this is it takes time for FSD to really understand context and situations. And each country has a different driving culture. So for example, in Singapore, most of the time we do not really give way. And our way of giving way is we pause for you for 1 second, we'll keep whatever that we're doing, and if you do not take that 1 second, there goes your opportunity. It's gone. So it will take time for FSD to be able to adjust to such driving situations. So in the short run, I think whoever that will purchase FSD is someone who is enthusiastic and appreciate the technology as a product.
Okay.
And you want to see it evolve and change and improve over time. And I think that's the person who will purchase FSD. If you're just doing your regular drives, Autopilot is more than good enough. It's safe, it's relaxing, and it will get the job done.
So what I'm hearing from Darcy is like if you're an early adopter, like you're someone who likes to try beta products, go for it. You know there's a lot of limitations, but you're excited for the possibility just to see a first look. The FSD option could be good for you now, but it's not for everyone yet. Autopilot's probably a more mainstream solution. Autopilot's available in all Teslas that we buy in Singapore now, but then there's also a lot of perception that people don't fully understand Autopilot. I understand you shared in earlier videos that Autopilot comes from the aviation industry. It's more like a pilot assistance rather than you let go of the steering wheel completely. Can you share with the audience what are the true limitations of Autopilot and when should we really use it? Like, is it only for highway?
So Autopilot is a L2 driver assist. So anything from L1 to L4 on the scale of autonomous driving, the driver has to always be present and the driver is in full control.
Okay.
Autopilot is always just something to help you out with your drive. So Autopilot is much better on the highway. The main reason for that is there's no traffic lights and Autopilot is more or less following the lane lines. And whenever the traffic slows down or increase in speed, Autopilot will follow suit.
I see.
So we have to understand that Autopilot, at the end of the day, is a driver assist. The driver is in control, and even if Autopilot make any suggestions on the road while driving, you as a driver is the final decision maker. So you have to decide whether or not whatever Autopilot is doing is safe, and yeah.
So drivers make the final call. Many drivers also say that driver assistance has been around for many years. BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen has had it a long time. Can't competitors just catch up and produce the same thing? What's your take, Darcy?
Actually, this is quite an interesting question. So in fact, I'm trying to get other drivers in Singapore who has some form of driver assist to come on board and to see what's the difference between a Tesla driver assist and BMW or Hyundai or any other brands out there who has a driver assist. Whether or not the other automakers can catch up, I think with general AI, which is pretty much what Tesla is trying to do, data is king. And Tesla's fleet right now is out there collecting so much data that it will take the same amount of time for legacy automakers to catch up. They have a tremendous amount of lead. And to answer the immediate question, I don't think any legacy automaker is anywhere close to what Tesla can do.
And that brings up a big point about machine learning. Like the more data inputs, the better that the models get trained. Today, the top two automakers in the world are Toyota and Volkswagen. But despite the millions of the car out there on the road, they don't have a lot of cameras, sensors, or data that gets fed back to HQ to train the model. Tesla today has about 1.5 billion cars on the road, but each car brings back data to help train the computer vision and also their full self-driving technology. The next big myth of perception is we live in HDB, most of us in Singapore, I think about 80% of the population still stays in public housing. And there are very few EV chargers out there. So EVs are not for me. I don't think I can buy an electric vehicle at Tesla because it's just so hard to manage it. What's your take, Darcy?
So for myself, I can't charge at home. Neither can I charge at work. I've asked for the building to install chargers, but that's going to take a while. So I've been living with public charging and destination charging for the past 1 month, and all I can say is you adapt to it. Nowadays, I will no longer want to go to a petrol station just to charge my car, just to sit there for even 10 minutes, just to go out of the way of my plan to charge my vehicle. What I do now is it's a lifestyle change. So if you're going to have dinner or lunch, you're going to pull up in a mall or somewhere where you know there's charging, and then you're going to charge your vehicle while you're going about your daily routines. I think there's no advantage or disadvantage to this. It's more of just a change of lifestyle, and I've been dealing with it pretty well, and I'm quite happy with it so far. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Like, electric vehicles have been around for a long time, and battery technology has progressed a lot. A lot of us have this range anxiety. Oh, what if the battery dies? So for most Singaporeans, like let's say daily commute from office to work, pick up kids or spouse, on average, how many days could your Tesla last without a charge?
So I charge as and when there is a charger nearby. But if I have to pull out the longest possible range, between charges, I'm doing about 300 to 320 kilometers. So that's about 5 days worth of driving for myself, 5 to 6. So I think it's good enough. I came from a hybrid, right? I've driven all of the Priuses before, and those were doing 800-900 kilometers per tank, right? So I can don't pump petrol for 2 weeks. So yes, it takes some time to get used to it. I wish there was a bit more range. Right now, I think 20% more range would be amazing. Mainly because there are times when you have a change of plan, and then you may need to drive a bit more. Right now, when you do have to drive a bit more, you have to put in for a charge. So that's definitely one of the downsides of the current Tesla Standard Range Plus that's in Singapore. So 300 kilometers is good to have, but I wish there can be a bit more. Yeah.
And then some people will say, yeah, maybe 300 kilometers is just a stated range, but actually EVs, you cannot charge the battery to 100%, right? So the full range is less, right? So there's a lot of like curiosity, anxiety. Do I charge to 80%, 90%? If I charge more than 95%, the regenerative braking that generates energy when your brake stops working. So people feel like it's a bit complicated. What's your advice, Darcy?
Just use your vehicle as it is. You don't have to think so much. I think the engineers at Tesla have made it as simple as possible to own, and you don't really have to go into much technical. So charge your vehicle when you can. For the Standard Range Plus, they're using lithium phosphate batteries, so they can be charged all the way to 100%.
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, I think just use your car as per how you would use your phone. Maybe try not to run it down to 0%. But yeah.
And some Tesla owners in Singapore I spoke with, they say, oh, if they really want to min-max their battery, right? There's 3 driving modes on Tesla. There is sport mode, the most powerful one. There's normal mode, and then there's chill mode. So some of them say, when I bring my kids to school, I just use chill mode. What's your experience on using these modes, and does it really make a big difference in range?
So with every single driving mode that you use in your vehicles, they're mostly electronic controls. So when I say electronic controls, all it does, it controls the sensitivity of your accelerator pedals.
See.
So if you depress it to 30%, depending on which mode you are, it increases or decreases the sensitivity of that motion. So you can keep yourself in sport mode, but you could just learn to control your throttle slightly better. Or you can keep yourself in chill mode and be more aggressive with the throttle. So there really isn't too much of a difference whether or not you're in different modes. I think just drive the car as per what it is. Like I said, the car is for you to enjoy. If you really want the hypermile, you can do it for 1 or 2 weeks. And after that, drive your car as per how you would drive it and how you will enjoy it. I think that's the best advice I could give.
I think one big theme hearing from Darcy is like, it's okay, like you have a car, enjoy it, let go as well. Don't worry, we'll be fine. And Singapore is a small country, you got a lot of support from the community and Tesla also. Another related myth when it comes to charging is that even though Teslas are considered clean, right, electric vehicles, most of our power grid is powered by fossil fuel steel in Singapore today. So Darcy, what's your advice for those of us who really want to try to be sustainable but are a bit skeptical because of the claims we read?
Okay, so most of our energy, at least I think 80% of it, is generated from natural gas. So that's one of the cleanest fossil fuels there are. In future, I think we are looking to import solar from Australia. I'm not too sure about the percentage, but once that happens, then you have a much cleaner energy solution for anyone who is using any form of electricity in Singapore. But one thing that we have to take note of is the total carbon footprint of energy delivered. You have to think of the entire cycle from start to end, start to finish. When you talk about, let's say, a petrol or ICE engine, you're looking at all the way down to refining the natural oil and then processing, delivering, supply chain, and then sending it to various different locations. And then you have an efficiency issue where only about 40 to 45% of the energy in petroleum is converted to useful energy for the vehicle. So all this have to come in play. And I think most important thing that we have to take note of is how efficient energy delivery is. Yeah.
When it comes to energy, people also say that electricity costs money, right? So is the total cost of ownership of an EV like Tesla really better? So people say the car costs more even though the purchase price is now coming to parity with industrial combustion engine cars. But then all of these like less moving parts, less maintenance, is this marketing or is there truth in this? What's your experience so far, Darcy?
So I actually did a quick calculation on this. I'm all about cost efficiencies. So if you're using a traditional ICE engine, and we assume about 15 kilometers per liter of petrol that you can drive, you're looking at about 14 cents based on Singapore petrol prices of, let's say, about $2 to $2.20. If you're driving a hybrid, if we assume 22 kilometers per liter, which is pretty much what I think any Prius can achieve. I'm not sure about other hybrids. Maybe mild hybrids won't be able to achieve that. Then you're looking at about 10 cents per kilometer of drive. Whereas when you come to, let's say, EVs, if you're charging at the most expensive charging location, you're going to look at about 6 cents per kilometer of driving. So just in terms of energy, the price, the cost of it, Teslas right now are the most efficient ones. So you get about 6 cents per kilometer, depending, maybe other EVs you get between 6 to 9 cents. But I think so far that's the price range that you're looking at for costs.
And you mentioned that you've driven the Prius for a few years as well. What if some of us want to get the best of both worlds? We want the convenience of petrol and also some sustainability and benefits of EVs. Can we just drive a hybrid like Prius? What's your take?
Yes, I think hybrids is a great in-between step, right? If you're not ready to go full EV, hybrids are perfect for as a catalyst for you to move into an EV. They are way more efficient than any other ICE cars possible. Cost-wise, maintenance-wise, there's also less to maintain for any hybrids because they also have regenerative braking. There's less as compared to an EV because the motors are way smaller.
Okay.
But yeah, I think hybrids are a great step forward. If you are coming from an ICE vehicle and you do not want to go to an EV, then hybrids is a great in-between.
Thank you for sharing that. So, like everyone has their own journey. I understand for some of us, we are very excited to go to EVs. We believe in it fully. For the rest of us, maybe we're still researching, we're still learning. It can be a transition. It is okay. Yes, the government is phasing out industrial combustion engine vehicles eventually in the next 10 years, but you still have time to make that journey. And one of the big things that can help a lot of us is really to just understand, debunk myths a little bit, and to actually talk to a community of owners. So Darcy, you're part of Tesla Owners Singapore. Is this a place where potential car buyers can go to learn more about EVs, or is there other places that they should also consider, like YouTube channels, LTA articles, Channel News Asia?
Yeah, I think if you appreciate Teslas, that's definitely the right place to go. If you want something more objective, I think Sandy Munro, he's a no bullshit kind of guy. He will tell you what's good and what's bad. I think if you are interested to hear the good side and the bad side, please, you can go ahead and have a look at Sandy Munro's channel.
And Sandy Munro is like an engineer in the automotive industry. He used to work in traditional automakers like Ford as well. Now he's an independent consultant. I'll put a link down to his channel below also.
Also, one more thing, EVs are relatively maintenance free. There's much lesser moving parts as compared to an ICE vehicle. So for those of you who are still not sure, I think there's no engine oil changes, there's no timing belt changes, there's no oil filter changes. You don't have to put in for any regular servicing. In fact, when I picked up my Tesla, they didn't even tell me, oh, please come in to the service center in the next 1 year or 2 years. They pretty much just say, if you need to come in, just come in to the service center. So I think EVs, from the supply chain and production standpoint, there's way less components, there's way less moving parts, and there's lesser wear and tear components. So maintenance-wise, you're definitely looking at the cost savings. I don't have the exact number. Maybe you could churn out a good percentage for the viewers. Yeah.
Talking about parts, one of the biggest parts in EV at the bottom where all of us sit is the big battery slab. And in Singapore, we're particularly sensitive about battery fires. From time to time, we read news about homes on fire because of batteries or e-scooters. Personally, my block in Toa Payoh, we had a fire in our block last year because of the battery. Someone had a portable battery and it caught fire in the living room and it burned down 2 units. So some people wonder, you're sitting on this huge battery underneath you, could it cause a lot of fires? How does this compare with driving a normal car? What's your experience?
So with battery fires, we have to first understand why it happens. Most of the time, it's either the cell has overheated, or there's improper control of or delivery of electricity into the power banks or the battery itself. If you're going for a cheap battery, or for example, if you're using a PMD that is not properly certified, so what happens is if you leave the charger on, it may not have the chip on board to cut away supply when it's supposed to cut away supply. And that causes certain fires to happen. However, when you start looking at your mobile phones, let's say if you use an Apple phone or a Samsung phone, you don't see them catching fire all the time. And that's because the engineers have already went through most of the processes to make sure that the phone does not overheat, or it cuts off charging when it's at the tail end of the battery capacity. So the same for EVs, or at least the same for Teslas. I think the amount of fires that were caused because of charging is extremely low. I actually do have a number here. So back in 2019, there were 195 car fires. And we probably don't know which car caught fire. So just because a Tesla catches fire, it does go on the news, and sometimes it can be disconcerting to some people. But the number is way less than the amount of ICE cars catching fire around the world. So yeah, we're good.
Tesla recently published their sustainability report showing that there's 11 times less battery fires on Tesla compared to a normal car out there in the road. 11 times less. And as Darcy mentioned, just like how we cannot compare a Toyota Vios with a Rolls-Royce, every battery is different as well. There's different qualities, different technology that goes into regulating the power supply, making it safe for us. It is well known that Tesla talks a lot about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Yet, many of us will feel that if we want to be truly sustainable, why are we driving a car? Public transport in Singapore is already so good. Now, for context, there are still close to 1 million vehicles in Singapore, and I wanted to hear Darcy's views on sustainability and owning a Tesla in this country.
Autonomous driving. We have to go there. But having said this, private transportations will always exist. Okay, I think it's not fair to say that you have an amazing public transport. Why are you still driving? Sometimes we do have to get to point A to point B either faster, or you have to do way more trips than what you could possibly achieve via public transportation. So the question to ask is EVs or is a Tesla a better alternative to what we currently have today? So if you compare a regular ICE car or a diesel car to, let's say, a Tesla, then I think if you weigh these two options together, and if you still have to have private transportation, then EVs are the best way forward. It's the most sustainable way forward for us. And well, let's go autonomous driving, and then we can reduce the total number of cars on the road. Yeah.
Agree. There's still many cars, and a recent study shows that up to 40% of households in Singapore still owns a private vehicle. So it is a transition, and Tesla isn't just about electric cars. Eventually, to help the mission, they would also introduce other products that you see in other countries like solar roof, the Powerwall. I know Singapore is very cloudy and most of us stay in public housing. So also want to hear Darcy's thought on how practical are these other Tesla products in Singapore, especially if we don't live in landed property.
To be fair, if you can't install it, you can't install it, right? I would love to have a power wall. I would love to have a solar roof. But if I don't own the buildings, then the best way forward is to maybe speak to the town councils or speak to your ministers and tell them that, hey, I want some solar panels on top of my block. And yes, actually, I do have solar panels on top of my HDB roof right now. It's not directly powered to me, but yes, I think one step forward is there. I actually did reserve a Powerwall and a solar roof just for the fun of it. So yeah,
Perhaps it could be more of an industrial solution or something that industrial parks or the government could look into if it's not a residential solution for most of us. Another big perception or myth for Tesla is that customer service in Tesla is not very consistent or not so good. You go to forums like Reddit, sometimes see complaints. I ordered my Tesla, I don't hear from anyone, the delivery dates keep on changing. If I buy a Mercedes or Rolls Royce, I know the dealership is there. I can walk in there, they can give me good support. I've been working in them for years. How have you seen the actual customer service experience in Tesla Singapore? And what's one advice you want to share for people working in Tesla?
So I've been quite open about my conversations on the customer experience in Singapore. I actually reached out to the team here in Singapore on how they can improve. I guess the team is still new. They're still getting processes sorted out. So it's not the best experience. To be honest, a lot of us were left in a ditch halfway through when we made the purchase. Like we were lost, right? We didn't know what to expect. Everything is new, and as the team is small, they're also overwhelmed. So I think as time goes by, they will get better at this. And recently, they've also been engaging the community on how to get this better. So of course, if you go to a regular dealership, you're going to get a much smoother process. In fact, you're paying for it. Whereas the Tesla experience is pretty much self-service. You have to get your loans, you have to make the payments, you have to do your trade-ins. They won't necessarily do it for you, but they can guide you along with it. So yes, there's room for a lot of room for improvement, but I think eventually they will get there. And as a supporter myself, yes, I can be more patient, or even those of us who reserve the cars, we are more patient. But even us, at some point, we did lose our patience. So I feel they're working on it, and I hope it gets better.
A big part of what Darcy is mentioning here is also almost like a mindset or expectation shift. Like if you buy a car in the past, it's almost like you go to a UOB branch, right? A bank branch. And now with the Tesla, it's almost like going to an ATM machine where it's more automated, it can be more convenient, but you really need to adjust your expectations. There may not always be someone to talk to all the time. You may need to learn the systems and the buttons a bit in the ATM. Not the perfect analogy, but there is quite an adjustment.
So actually, maybe if I just could add, since you mentioned this, right? So on the day of taking delivery of my vehicle, I went in there, they made me sign a paper. Within 5 minutes, I was done.
Wow. There
There was nothing else. Like they didn't even remove the plastic seat covers that were on my seat until I stared at it and I was like, can I remove this? And so that's the kind of thing that you can expect with Tesla, right? You go in there, things are extremely different. I've never bought a new vehicle before, but even when I deal secondhand, like when you buy a secondhand vehicle, even the previous owner will at least walk you through the car, they'll run you through the processes. Hey, I got the be careful of this, be careful of that. So for Tesla, it's pretty much just all the guides have already been filmed and it's in the video guide. Just drive off your vehicle, watch the guides, figure out the car, and you enjoy the experience. So it's a mindset shift, like you said. Yeah.
It is scary, especially for those of us who are going to buy a car for the first time. And so self-service, right? So we can't do this alone. There's a community out there. The Tesla community is quite supportive. And so I want to ask Darcy this question. Like when it comes to a community, let's say like the Tesla group in Singapore, at what point does it become an echo chamber or Tesla is great? Or at what point do we actually also have like critical debates to understand what are the merits and also the downsides of owning a Tesla? And what's your advice to those of us who are trying to have a very objective view as owners or prospective buyers of Tesla?
So as Singaporeans, we're not the most optimistic nor positive bunch of people. We are very critical. So I think with the Tesla Owners Singapore group, you're not going to get an echo chamber because most Singaporeans by default are critical in nature. So even like I said, we are early supporters of the vehicle. Even for us during the whole customer experience, did we complain? Yes. Did we write in? Yes. Were we angry? Yes. Did we share this with the group that this is the downsides that you're going to receive when you're going to get your vehicle? Yes. Even on my channel, when I talk about FSD, I don't just point out the good points. The negative parts have to come out. The negative components are great because those are areas where we can improve. And when people no longer talk about negative stuff, then you no longer know where you can improve. I think feedback is important, and positive criticism is very important. You definitely, I feel, at least in the Tesla Owner Singapore Club, the group shares both the good and the bad. You can say something bad about your vehicle, and people are not going to shoot you down. They're going to ask you why you said that and how can we make it better. Yeah.
Elon Musk believes in always thinking with first principles, like looking at the foundational truth, not thinking by analogy or what happened before in the past. What is true now? What are the building blocks for something to happen? And it is also a company with a culture that tries to challenge expectations. They don't want to hear it can't be done, but rather, how can it be done? What do you need to make it get done? I want to take this as a final just pivot to ask Darcy, because Tesla employees work a really crazy. It's not easy working in Tesla. There's a lot of expectations, rightfully so. If you're paying close to 150, 200,000 for a car, it is fair to have expectations. Yet, in the middle of all this, in the middle of all the hustle, and right now as we're recording, it's about 13 more days before September ends. They're working hard on quarterly deliveries. What's one word of appreciation you'd like to share with the Tesla Singapore employees?
First of all, thank you for all the hard work that you guys have been doing. Just know that whatever that you are doing currently will definitely have a huge impact in the future for every single one of us. I share with my friends that Tesla vehicles are pretty much like an iPhone moment. It's going to change, the iPhone changed mobile phones as we know it.
Yes.
And Teslas, they will change transportation as we know it. So I think that is inspiring enough for the team in Singapore or wherever you are in the world to push forward and to put in the hours that you need to get the job done. Having said this, congratulations to SpaceX, who recently got the Inspiration 4 crew to space. I teared when they got the 4 civilians into space. So my dream has always been to go into space. And yeah, so thank you guys for doing it. It is an inspiration. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for your wisdom, Darcy. And on your dream of going to space, Darcy has a YouTube channel called Tesla Astronaut. So I'll put a link to Tesla Astronaut below in the description. What can we expect from your channel, Darcy?
So I mainly share my thoughts on FSD in Singapore because I think FSD has a very nice scenario and a nice environment to work with in Singapore traffic. Like I said, we have good infrastructure, but bad road manners. So it's nice to see how FSD would react and learn in these conditions. And I think it's a nice gateway into more extreme traffic conditions where you have in the region. Other than that, I host podcasts on my channels. I talk with people who are doing interesting projects, and hopefully they are hosted like conversations like ours, pretty much just having a chat and sharing their ideas.
Thank you, Darcy. As Darcy said earlier, we're going through an iPhone moment. It's almost like a transition from Nokias to iPhones. It will take a couple of years. Adopting EVs has a lot of potential risk, yes, and as your early adopter, you will face some teething challenges. When Joe Nguyen first got his Tesla in Singapore back in 2015, there were so many challenges. Back then, the perception of EV was like a lifestyle product. That has changed. There will still be many hurdles to come. As we talked about all the myths and the perceptions in today's episode, often we've been focused on what could go wrong, and that's fair. But we also should look at what could go right. Inspiring things like launching private civilians to space. Inspiring things like helping a more sustainable future, which is so critical for this country. It is a must-have and not a nice-to-have that Singapore is sustainable because we are an island nation and climate change impacts all of us. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the like button if you found this interview useful, and click subscribe to stay updated to more videos like this. Take care. Enjoy.
Ciao.